Welcome, everyone, to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. I'm your host, Jimmy Traina. Thank you so much for listening. This is one of two podcasts this week. We have WWE superstar Seth Rollins on the show today. He was outstanding, talking about SummerSlam this weekend, his love of the Bears. Seth's a legit NFL fan, wants to get into NFL media. We talked about that and a bunch of other topics with WWE superstar Seth Rollins. And we'll have a podcast for you later this week with Chris Mad Dog Russo. And last week we did two pods. We had sports columnist Bob Kravitz on the show to talk about a scathing Substack column he wrote, ripping The Athletic, where he had worked and got laid off. So Bob came on and sort of talked further about that. WWE superstar Cody Rhodes was on last week. Mike Florio a couple of weeks ago. Andrew Marchand. All recent guests on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. So if you missed any of those, check them out in the archives, subscribe to the pod, and leave a review on Apple. We'll read them on an upcoming episode. We don't have a train of thoughts with Sal Licata on this show. We'll have it later in the week when I put out the Thursday pod with Chris Mad Dog Russo. This episode is just Seth Rollins. And if you're a WWE fan listening to Rollins, like I said, Cody Rhodes was on last week, so check that out. All right, let's get to it. WWE superstar Seth Rollins right here, right now on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right, joining me now, very happy to have him back on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. He's been on a couple of times, always a fun chat. He is WWE Superstar World Heavyweight Champion, getting ready for SummerSlam this Saturday on Peacock against Finn Balor. Seth freaking Rollins. Seth, how are you?
What is up, my man? I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the nice introduction. Still thrilled to be the World Heavyweight Champion.
So you're the World Heavyweight Champion and Roman is the Universal Champion. Do you feel like slighted that you just have the world and not the universe? How do we feel about the titles?
You know, I think it's meant to be like a metaphor for the WWE Universe. So technically, I've got a bigger space if you qualify it that way. He's got the WWE Universe. I've got the entire world. I don't know. 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. It is what it is. Either way, we're both champs, riding high. Business is hot. Life is good. Good. Glad to hear it.
I watched you on Family Feud last night. That looked like a lot of fun. You and the WWE men versus the WWE women. It looked like you and your wife, Becky Lynch. Now, listen, you could have been faking it for the cameras. The competition looked legit. It looked like there's the family here they're going to battle against each other.
I mean, look, we are a family of winners. We are champions. We are winners. We are main eventers. And so when you put two top brothers and sisters against each other, you know, you're going to have some hefty competition. So that's how it is. That's how we roll. Only one of us can come out on top. I don't want to spoil anybody who hasn't seen the episode. Just get your eyes on it. I think you can catch the repeats on Hulu, but it was a hell of an episode, if I do say so myself.
It's a fun show. Let me start with this, because I had Cody Rhodes on the podcast last week. And after the interview wrapped with Cody, and I was looking up some things, I came across a bunch of stories about you and Cody are quote-unquote not friends. And I'm like, now, I know they had this great feud at one point, an unbelievable match. But I'm like, they got to be friends. How could they not be friends? So are you guys not friends, you and Cody?
We are, God, our relationship is very complex. I think that's the best way to put it. I think there's a mutual respect there. Obviously, I think when you have two guys at our caliber, there's respect, but there's also a level of competition. There's a healthy jealousy in some capacity on both sides. You know, he has mentioned recently that we both vying constantly to be the top guy on the top show on Monday Night Raw, and that's the truth. And so there's respect, friendship. I don't know that I would go that far, but yeah, it's a very complex situation between the two of us. That's for sure.
He could not have been more complimentary about your wrestling, about your talent, about you as a WWE superstar. But then he said, you know, we're not friends. And I was like, oh, that's a harsh thing. And he seems like a nice guy. I'm like, that's a harsh thing to say. So I figured I'd ask you.
I mean, I don't know that it was harsh. I don't know that it was harsh, and I would say the same thing about him. At what Cody's been able to do, kind of coming out of his father's shadow, which is a very difficult thing to do, and making his own path, and the way he's done it, by being here in WWE, leaving, starting a rival promotion, coming back, and really defying expectations to get to the top of the card and stay at the top of the card. I mean, you can't say anything bad about Cody's work ethic. Absolutely not. He's the hardest worker in the room, 100%. Incredible talent in the ring. I watch him on all the live events, and he puts it all on the line every single night. And so I have nothing but good things to say about him from a work perspective. But does that mean we're best friends? Does that mean we're going to hang out and have drinks together? Probably not.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on that. Have you Googled yourself recently?
No, I have not.
Okay. So I always like to Google my guests and, for research purposes. The first thing that comes up in the Google search for your name is, are Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins friends? And the second thing that comes up, this is the most Google search thing about you, Seth Rollins, is who is Seth Rollins' best friend? So who is Seth Rollins' best friend? Let's answer the question for the people.
That's an odd.
I thought so too.
That's a very strange thing. Well, my best friend is my wife. I don't mean to be cheesy, but yeah, my best friend is my wife, Becky Lynch. We spend most of our time together, whether it be parenting or working, and it's awesome. We just have a great relationship. We were friends before we were together romantically, and so that just has carried over. So we're best friends. If you were to ask me who my best non-romantic friend is, I would probably say Claudio's Castagnoli, I think, is probably my best friend. We've gone up and down the road together for over a decade in different promotions, and we still keep in close contact. I talk to him virtually every single day, and so yeah, he's probably number one. If Google needs to know, they can come right here to the podcast and find out.
I'm here to serve the people Googling your name.
There you go.
You mentioned Becky, and I mentioned that on Saturday we have SummerSlam, the second biggest pay-per-view in WWE calendar year. You'll be battling Finn Balor. And I'm curious because Finn Balor is part of the Judgment Day. Obviously, Rhea Ripley's part of that. And obviously, everyone knows you're married to Becky Lynch. And I do you get a sense that because I wonder this, because every time you're getting attacked by the Judgment Day and Rhea Ripley's part of it, I'm like, well, why isn't Becky come out? Why isn't Becky part of this? They could have a good thing there. Are you guys intentionally trying to keep storylines separate? Is it the writers aren't writing it that way? Would you want to do it that way? Give me a little something on that if you don't mind.
Well, I think the thing with Becky and I is, we're very much, her business is her business, my business is my business. And so we've kept it that way for the last few years. It seems to be working for both of us quite well. On the other hand, the looming matchup between the man and mommy, is there. And when the time is right, I think it'll happen. Obviously, Becky is tied up currently with Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark. And so she's got, kind of tie up those loose ends a little bit and figure out where she's going to go. But I think she has her eyes on the prize. I don't want to speak for her, but, knowing her, I said earlier, we're a family of winners. She wants to be a champion, and I know she would love to be women's world champion. And I think she has her eyes on Rhea Ripley. At some point, those paths will cross. I guarantee you, whether I'm involved or not, time will tell. But there's something there. You're on to something, and I think you're probably not the only one thinking those thoughts. And so we'll get there. We gotta do it when the time's right.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you get a sense from your fans, that they want you guys in a storyline together? Because if you're getting a lot of clamoring for you and Becky in a storyline together, then it sort of makes sense that the WWE doesn't do it for a little while and keeps that buildup going. That seems to be one of the sort of trademarks of pro wrestling is the buildup, and then do it. But I don't know if you're getting that sense from people, or that they want you guys in a storyline together.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think they want to see Becky and Rhea I think that's the thing. And it just so happens that anytime you put me in the same space with Rhea, I think that thought, kind of just is there as it is in your mind. And I don't know if people are clamoring so much to see Becky and I interact on screen as much as they are just seeing how can this maybe lead to Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley in some capacity, because that's such a dream match for a lot of our fans. And so I think the thought's there. People see me, they think Becky, Rhea's there. It's a natural progression of where you think you might go with a rivalry. And like I said, I think they'll get there, whether it's with me or not. Doesn't matter. The match is huge. I don't need to be involved. I think they'll do it when the time's right.
Got it. I mentioned SummerSlam on Saturday, Seth Rollins against Finn Balor on Peacock. It'll take place at Ford Field in Detroit. And anyone who knows Seth Rollins knows that he is an enormous Chicago Bears fan. So there's no fake bullshit. It's a legit fan. I actually on Sundays always enjoy your tweets about I hate football, I love football. I know you probably can't give anything away, but now you're obviously quote unquote a face right now, but when you're going into Ford Field, does it make you want to bash the Lions on the microphone a little bit as a Bears fan, and you can't do that? Or can you still maybe get away with a little jab? You don't want the fans turning on you, but you're a Bears fan going into enemy territory on Saturday, Seth.
I know, but here's the thing, right? The Lions have, they've been on the come up a bit over the past couple years, especially at the end of last season. But historically speaking, this is a one-sided rivalry, right? The Bears have dominated the Detroit Lions for the most of this rivalry. So I don't want to be punching down in Detroit. They finally got a good thing cooking. Both these teams are on the come up. It's going to be an exciting time in the NFC North this year. You've got a division without Aaron Rodgers, without Brett Favre for the first time in 30 seasons. It's wide open. I'm hoping that the Detroit Lions can continue. I love what they've got set up there. I love their coach. I love their culture. I'm hoping that they can continue to progress. But yeah, I mean, look, until it's a real rivalry, I don't want to be taking any shots. Detroit's they're still recovering from early Barry Sanders retirement and early Calvin Johnson retirement. Matt Stafford trying his best and then leaving and going to win a Super Bowl in his first season somewhere else. I mean, they've had a lot of trauma. I don't need to add to that. We're going to be in Ford Field having a good time.
Were you, we've seen you on the WWE stage many a time, dancing, shaking, gyrating, giving a little. Was there any of that going on when Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets?
There was a lot of that going on. I was absolutely glued to the television, waiting to see when the foot was going to drop on that deal. I mean, because it was going back and forth and back and forth. There was a bunch of chatter around draft time, and then it died off. And I didn't know. I didn't know what was going to go on, and so I was very happy to see that they finally shipped him off. I hope nothing but bad things for him in New York. I hope the media eats him alive. I hope the Dolphins crush him. I hope the Patriots crush him. I just hope that he just finishes 2-15 and retires, and we never have to hear the name Aaron Rodgers again until he's elected into Canton in the Hall of Fame. But that's my hope for the great Aaron Rodgers.
All right. Could you ever do a 4 or 5 day retreat where you lock yourself in a house with nothing?
I mean, was he on copious amounts of ayahuasca at the time? Because I think that might change.
I don't know if he was at that time maybe he was. I don't know, but yeah, maybe. I don't know if there's anything that could make me do it, but if the ayahuasca can make you do it, then you would be able to handle it.
I don't know. I'm not a drug guy. I've never done any drugs in my life, so it'd be hard for me to really wrap my head around the whole process. I like the idea of solitude and darkness for however long, a couple of days. I like the idea of like a reset, but easier said than done. I think the task would be a tall one for anybody, who's as go as I am.
Well, I think a reset, like you could get on a plane with Becky, fly to some island and sit on the beach for 3 days and not check your phone. I don't know if you have to necessarily lock yourself in a dark room with no light and no electric and no anything.
Hey, man, kudos to Aaron. Yeah, there's definitely a balance, but Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys who, if he's going to go, he's going all the way. So he's his own dude. He marches the beat of his own drum. I do respect that. mean, I only dislike the guy because he talked so much smack about Chicago for years.
Right. Oh yeah, he's your daddy. He owns you. He owns you. He owns you.
Yeah, he's a stakeholder in the Chicago Bears. So yeah, I gotta hate on him for that.
Now,
but yeah,
go ahead.
I was just say kudos to him for giving it a shot. I don't think he made the entire duration of his darkness retreat, but it's a very, very difficult task, and I'm glad he tried it.
Now, the Lions are the darling pick this year in that division, and people expect them in the playoffs because the whole NFC as a whole is down, especially compared to the AFC. How do you feel about that as a Bears fan? You getting a little pissed off that everyone's picking the Lions, or do you like sort of laying in the weeds, being the underdog? You get Justin Fields to come mature, and then you sort of surprise people. What is the Bear fan process in your brain there?
Yeah, it's very interesting because I feel like because of Justin Fields and the addition of DJ Moore, there are heightened expectations around the team. There's all these comparisons to Jalen Hurts and kind of this third season turnaround that a lot of these young quarterbacks have seen. And so I think there's these high expectations in Chicago, but they're being tempered a little bit because Detroit is sort of the darling with the way they finished up the season last year. So like, I'm kind of in the middle. Like I'm sort of just like riding the wave of the excitement. It's the first time in a long time as a Chicago Bears fan that coming into the season, I feel excited about the offense as compared to the defense. Usually the defense is the strong suit of our team. And now I'm looking at the defense going, who's going to rush the passer on this squad? And so I'm excited just to see, like I said, having a season without anybody in Green Bay that, isn't named Favre or Rodgers, what the division's going to look like. Obviously, you got Kirk Cousins and the Vikings still probably playing at a high level, Justin Jefferson and all those guys. But yeah, it just seems wide open. It seems, and you mentioned the NFC as a whole is just compared to the AFC, it's pretty wide open. And so I think we got a shot to surprise people. I don't know if maybe we're a division winner. I looked at the schedule. There's a lot of winnable games on that schedule. I think we're definitely in the mix for a wild card spot this year. And then, come to January, you just who's playing the best, who's got the hot hand. We'll see how it goes. So I'm hyped, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. There's hope there. I should have looked this up knowing I was going to speak to you, and I didn't. But do you know off the top of your head who the Bears play week 1?
Packers.
Okay, that's okay. That'll be a nice way to start the season if you pull that one off. And
I can't remember
the ghost of Aaron Rodgers.
I know. I can't remember if it's home or away, but I believe it's Packers game week 1. So I'm excited to see. I mean, I want to see Jordan Love too. I'm excited to see what he's going to bring to the table. Because, he's kind of sitting in that Aaron Rodgers role when Rodgers was behind Favre for all those years. He drafted, sat on the bench, and look, Green Bay still got a great squad. They got great running backs, good offensive line, like good defense. They're still going to be in games. I don't want people to think, they got Jordan Love, they're not going to be playing ball. Like, they're still going to be balling. So it'll be very interesting to see the whole division, how it all shakes out this year. I'm hyped. I wish football started next week. I'm sad we got to wait 2 more months.
Join the club. Join the club. Yesterday was the mark of 6 more Sundays. So this Sunday will be 5 more Sundays. We're getting there till we get it. You mentioned Cousins. You mentioned Cousins. Have you watched Quarterback on Netflix by any chance? Have you gotten a chance?
Yeah. Oh my God, I binged that sucker, man. I was fascinated as someone who kind of competes at a high level in my own sport to see other people do that. Anytime I get a chance to watch, the elite do their thing and how they prepare and how they game plan and how they suffer through the season. Like it was fascinating. Turned me into a Kirk Cousins fan, I will say.
Same here. Yeah. Good.
He's just a good guy, man. He's just a wholesome cat, and like his preparation and what he puts into the game. And then when you watch it broke down over the season, because he'd gotten a lot of flack about not being able to show up in big games. But when you watch the preparation, you go, oh, well, it's not him. It really is a team game. And like everybody's got to come together. He was making plays in big spots and giving his team the best chance to win. And it just didn't happen. They just weren't the better squad. And so I was rooting for the guy halfway through the season. He's going through a lot. I understand that. I know what that's like to have injuries and still have to get on the field and compete. And do your best and have the media kind of ridicule you and tear you down and still just try to put your best foot forward and all that stuff. I get that. So I sympathize a lot with Kirk Cousins, and I'm excited to see kind of watch him perform with a different lens this year.
Yeah, it's impossible to watch that and not come away with it from it just really liking the person, Kirk Cousins. Let me ask you this, because the way you're talking here, I mean, you could easily be an NFL analyst. Would that be ever in your I mean, listen, you got a long way to go here in your WWE career, but would getting involved in like NFL analysis and would that ever appeal to you as a profession?
Oh, dude, I would love to do that. I would love it. Anytime we get the chance to sit down and talk about football, like I am all about it. Like I would love, I mean, my goal would be to like sit in the booth on a Sunday night and, call Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football or something. Obviously, I got a ways to go. In my world yet. I'm hitting my prime right now, just hitting my stride. I got some time, but I would love to parlay into working with the NFL in some capacity. I'm just such a fan. It's one of my only other like real passions that I have time for. And so, yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to, have me on their show, have the world heavyweight champion Seth freaking Rollins around to talk football on Sundays or Saturdays or whatever day of the week, man, I would love it. That would be great.
So let me ask you this. If you could call an NFL game in the booth with any NFL play-by-play person, who would you want your partner to be? You're the analyst. Who do you want your play-by-play guy to be or gal?
Oh, man. God, I probably got to go Al Michaels. Yeah, is he still rocking? Yeah. Is he still doing it?
He does the Thursday night games on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the Thursday games were sketchy last year, but Al's a legend, dude. He's a legend. I think that'd be the one where I'd kind of be in awe a little bit, like all the other, they all bust their ass. Like Jim Nance is great, and Joe Buck, like they're all incredible at what they do, but like Al's just a legend, He'd be the one where he's like the Michael Jordan, so I'd be kind of like, oh, Al Michaels, I'd be nervous.
I've gotten to know Al over the years, and he's a great guy, and he's very, very funny. And the off-air Al is even different from the on-air Al. He's a funny guy. I can tell you that. We've made it 20 plus minutes without bringing up your theme song. Are you sick of talking about the theme song and what goes on in these arenas when your song is playing?
No, I talk about it all day, every day, man. It's a blast. So, we're having a party over here.
So I went to the SmackDown show at Madison Square Garden. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago now, where you did a dark match after the show was off the air. Being there for that was so cool, I have to say, of everyone singing that song in Madison Square Garden. When we left the building, we were walking down the steps. I don't know if you've ever been in like the actual arena of Madison, but you have to walk down like a million flights of steps to get out. They were singing the song as we were walking down the steps. We get out onto 7th Avenue and 34th Street, and they're singing the song. What is this like for you?
I mean, look, I didn't build the song. I had some input, I told them what I liked, and this is what they came up with. So the guys who are responsible for that, they deserve the credit, and that's fantastic that it's such an earworm that it just gets stuck in your kind of your brain, and you have to get it out like that. But I mean, it's just like you said, I'm glad you got to experience it live. I think people kind of who see it on TV don't understand the difference in the live experience. It's like a moment in time when you're there live. It's just a different, there's not a person in the arena that's quiet during that period of time where it's just them singing the song kind of a cappella. It's eerie, it's haunting, it's magical. It's such a cool experience. And I'm so happy to be able to take that around and do it in all these different countries and all these different cities, and be able to see people in Paris, people in Mexico, people in Alabama, like wherever we're at, they're all singing along, having a great time. And it's just such a fun experience that they can take and remember the night with, it's all about moments, and they get to remember being a part of that.
Now, if I hooked you up to a lie detector test and I said to you, Seth, or even if I asked Colby Lopez, have you ever been in the ring and you thought, all right, this is going on a little too long, they need to wrap it up?
God, I just don't think so, because our business is so much about crowd participation. That's the cool thing about what we do, is it's not just us on stage by ourselves performing for the audience. The audience is a character in the show, and so like to have them do their thing, it's up to them. Like how I don't make them do it. I give it to them and they take it from there. And
it's okay.
I take it and give it to them, and whatever they give back to me is up to them. It's their experience. They can have it however they want. If they hated it and they wanted to boo me out of the building, that would be up to them as well. It's their experience. So I don't ever want to tell them it's too much or it's too little. Some of the cities take pride in how long they can sing the song, that they can top the night before, top the weekend before. And so I find that fascinating, and I'm just kind of along for the ride.
Well, I was wondering if the writers sort of have to build in time for the song now, because you're a TV show, so you have commercial breaks. So I don't know exactly how it goes in the but let's say they have Seth Rollins is going to have a match against this guy and they have 8 or 10 minutes. You got to put an extra 5 minutes in there for your entrance and the crowd singing the song. I mean, that's what I meant about, do you ever think it goes too long? I want the people timing the show. Is it ever an issue where they're like, okay, we've got to start this match, Seth is standing there basking in the song, but let's get the ball rolling here.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you just build that into the timing of the show. You are correct. Like the commercial breaks a lot for only so much time in between them, and so you've got to hit your marks. And when you have that crowd participation, like I said, you don't want to take that away from them. It's one of the things that once they're participating, they're kind of hooked, right? Then you have them, then we can do whatever we want, And so it's you just time that in. You just build that into whatever you're trying to accomplish, or you find a way to take it away. Sometimes some guys get sick of it and they jump me, and then we lose that, and then the audience gets mad that they didn't get that participation, and so then they sing even louder to annoy the bad guy. And so it really there's a lot of different ways you can play with it. I don't know how long it's going to last, but for right now, man, it's a sweet wave, and I'm just riding it as long as I can.
Is there a building, an arena, a city you haven't been in yet, since this has really exploded, where you want to be there to hear how that, everyone knows Chicago crowds are wild, Philly, I would hope New York too a little bit. I know Mexico City, this song was a great scene. I saw that video. But have you not been somewhere yet where you're like, I can't wait to go in there and see how they do with the song?
Man, we've had some crazy ones, right? Like you mentioned Mexico City. Paris was also pretty bananas. Paris, I think, has the record for the longest one. Like my arms were shaking, like they were shaking. I was sore the next day in my traps and middle of my back. And that was pretty wild. I think so. We have on the docket next month, I want to say, maybe we have a show in India coming up.
Oh wow!
And it's kind of, maybe it's going to happen, maybe not. I'm not exactly sure. But when we go to these different markets that are cultures that are completely different than American cultures, I'm always curious to see how they respond. And so that one is so far outside the frame of the American, what we're used to, the American fan, that I'm like, what's it going to be? How are they going to react? Are they going to have the same fervor? Are they going to be bigger? Are they going to be less than? What's the deal? So that one's kind of interesting.
I'm going to shift gears here, and then we can wrap it up in a few minutes. I know when I was on with Cody, when I taped my podcast with Cody last week, it was at the same time, and he sort of blew off his having to go to sort of the walkthrough for Raw. I don't want to get you in trouble. Are you good right now?
I am good, man. It'd be hard to get me in trouble at this point in my career.
I said to Cody, you're not really going to get in trouble. I would assume you're the freaking world heavyweight champion. You're not getting in trouble if you show up a few minutes late, right?
I piss people off from time to time, but I think I've earned the right to do that over the last 11 years.
You're doing this. I love it, from the bus. I'm
Yeah, we're on the
fascinated by
bus.
you guys who have the bus. I know Cena had the bus, Roman had the bus, Cody told me he had the bus, but I also feel like you guys like very secretive about the bus. Am I wrong in that assessment?
I mean,
Like
it's
you
our
never
private
really show
space.
off. Right, right. You guys never show off the bus, and I always want to see the bus.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like our home. I spend as much time on this thing as I do in any of the places that I stay, and so it's like our home. So I don't really want to like expose it to the public. You know what I mean? I
Right,
don't
right,
want people to know like where I'm taking a shower and where I'm going to bed and all that kind of stuff. Like that's for
right.
me. So this little window you're getting here in my corner
Yeah,
table and
that's
my
it.
my living room is well all you're
That's it.
getting, baby.
Yeah. Now, do your WWE superstar friends though? Do they have like carte blanche to come on the bus? Like, if they want to just shoot the shit with you and hang out with you, like, can they just come on the bus, or they need like permission here to hang out with you on the bus?
I mean, I don't want anybody just walking into my front door. Like
Right.
you still got to
Right.
knock or say, "Hey,
Right.
can I come by?" But for the most part, I'm not telling anybody no. And truth
Right.
be told, we don't spend that much time on the bus. Like once we're at a show, we're inside and
Got
just
it.
doing normal stuff. It basically just acts as like a moving, traveling hotel for us. You know what I'm saying? So all of our stuff is on here, showers on here, beds on here. It just makes it so we don't have to drive at night for 4 or 5 hours like we used to, cram into a car. You get to sleep a little earlier, stretch
Right.
out your legs after a show. You're not cramped up. So yeah, it's a very nice thing. We're very fortunate to be able to do this and to travel this way and to live this life. It's been many years doing it the other way, and I don't know how I could go back at this point.
Yeah. I've always been fascinated by the WWE superstars travel schedule and just, how much you guys work and how little time off you do have. So I'm just curious with the bus, do you fly anymore to cities, or you during the bus all the time? What do you still have to get
No,
on
no,
an airplane?
we still fly. Yeah, there's still quite a bit of flying that goes on. I still got my memberships all the major airlines are real happy with me. So yeah, we're still flying quite often. We fly into a city on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday, and hop on the bus and go to the show, and then drive to the next town, do the show, drive to the next town, do the show, and then oftentimes we'll fly home. Now the convenience of the bus is if we're within a good distance, we can drive home. You can do a
Right.
10-hour drive in the bus. And so if we have that option, we'll take it. So that allows us to get home when we're in the Midwest a lot more for Becky and I. West Coast, we're flying every week, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it just depends on where we're at and, where the wind takes us.
So I'm going somewhere with this. So I'm a big TikTok scroller. I don't know if you're a big TikTok scroller at all.
No
You're
TikTok
not.
for me, baby. Not a
No
TikToker.
TikTok for you. Okay. So I'm a big TikTok scroller, and it seems like every single day on TikTok, I see a video of someone on a plane having a meltdown, being an asshole, causing fights, causing trouble. You guys fly more than anyone. I mean, you have the bus, but you guys are constantly flying. Have you noticed a increase in this terrible airline behavior, or you haven't noticed it?
No, I think it's what the increase is the cell phone videos, right? People
Yeah.
just taking them and having the ability to immediately upload them, and viral memes popping up every 30 seconds and stuff like that. And so that's what I think the difference is. I imagine there's always been disgruntled airline passengers and airline employees, and they probably always butted heads, but there just always hasn't been the capacity to put all of this on social media for people to see. That's my guess. I haven't seen any wild incidents of people saying there's aliens in the back of the plane or any fist fight
Yeah.
or any. I would love to. I love to people watch. I'd love to see some chaos on an airplane as long as it doesn't mess up my flight time. But
Will you bust out the phone? Will you bust out the phone and film it for us?
dude, I don't even remember to take pictures of myself or I don't take pictures of shit, dude. I'm like, those
Yeah.
like the LeBron like shooting the thing and everybody's on their phones, and then there's just like Phil Knight sitting there. I'm Phil Knight. Like that's me. I'm never pulling out my phone to film anything. I'm always forgetting about it. I'm just I don't know. It's just where I'm at with my personal experience.
I mean, you're not up there in age by any stretch of the imagination, but I think you're of that age that it's still the like people, I think I would say maybe like 25 and under who they have to film everything and take a picture of everything. Like, it's just bizarre way to function to me, but
yeah, well, I mean, I'm an older millennial, right? And so younger millennials and anybody younger than them, they grew up with technology all the time. They didn't understand, they didn't have life without technology. So to me, it makes perfect sense. It's weird, but it's just as weird as, the way my parents saw us grow up playing video games, way more than they did. And so, I get it. If you grew up knowing nothing but that, I totally understand it. I'm just on the other side of that. I'm 37 now, so it's like I'm just quite on the other side of the technological breakthrough, I guess, of the early 21st century.
Yeah. Well, everything is streaming, which gives me a chance to let everyone know. Peacock Saturday, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, huge match at SummerSlam. People like me, I threw it out earlier, like SummerSlam, second biggest, day behind WrestleMania. Do the WWE superstars feel that way too? Or is that like a media thing we've created? Because the Royal Rumble's huge and there's a couple of other big ones, but do you guys have that approach with it as well?
I think some of us do, for sure. I think, anytime we do stadium shows, it's big, so anytime we're at a Ford Field and there's 50,000 plus people, it's big. And so Clash at the Castle, for example, that was a one-off, but it felt huge. Royal Rumble, we've been doing in baseball stadiums for the last few years, and that always feels big. It's the start of WrestleMania season. Again, you pack the place. It's a huge deal. And so SummerSlam for me has always been number two. Rumble, arguably 2 or 3 as well, but I always feel like SummerSlam is big. Last year, being left off SummerSlam, I was very upset about it, and so this year I'm very excited to be bringing in a new world championship and defending it against a guy who really deserves the opportunity. And I'm excited to see how the crowd is in Ford Field. I've never been in Ford Field, and I'm excited to do SummerSlam in Detroit. It's in Motor City. It's going to be hot. It's going to be awesome. And I'm excited to give the fans a match that they're going to remember forever.
It's absolutely surreal to think that Seth Rollins was not at SummerSlam last year on the card.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, the show can only fit so much. And if you're not in the story that, makes its way in there, and if you're going to be in a match that's going to get 5 minutes and no one's going to remember it, then better to be chopped than not. And we had a fun little thing where Riddle called me out and I got to run in my orange suit, and we got into a nice brawl, and it was memorable, and it led to another month of a story with him and I. And so I was there, but anytime you don't have a featured match on a major show, there's no way you're going to feel good about that.
I'm going to throw this out there. I'll see if you take the bait. Can you share with us the most pissed you've ever been with management, writers, for either not being on a card, a storyline, something? There was a clip of you that went viral in the wrestling community, and I don't know if it was a real thing or if it was the timing of it, but there were these reports that Vince was back when everyone thought, he was not going to be running things. And there was a clip of you at Raw. You were in the ring. You came out. You were in the ring. They went to a commercial. You looked like you were a little upset talking to someone, and then like you left the ring and never had a segment. And people thought maybe Vince was like changing the script on the fly. Do you remember that whole thing? Because it was all over the place.
Yeah, that was not a big deal. I was upset, but it was mostly just a production miscommunication. That was that the night after Mania, maybe? I think.
Maybe, yeah.
And the intent of the segment was to go to break with the audience singing my song, allow them to sing during the break, come back up, they might still be singing, and then drift off into nothingness, and just like a musical interlude for the Raw after Mania. But for whatever reason, that never made it through to production. And so when we go to commercial, instead of just letting the crowd party, they did the thing where they blocked the house, shut down the music, and play the stupid video packages, which messed up what the whole plan was. And so the crowd was trying to sing, but you've got Stone Cold Steve Austin talking about Broken Skull Ranch or whatever on the thing, and DX, and I'm like, what? Did no one get the memo? So it was just a production snafu. But in
Got
the
it.
middle of the commercial break, I'm yelling to try to get it turned off so they can keep singing. But it was already a disaster. The crowd was confused, didn't know what to make of it, and then we came back and did the rest of the segment, but it didn't translate the way you would want it to because the crowd wasn't able to participate the way the segment was meant to be planned.
Right.
So I wasn't really that upset about that. That was just a bad handling. Now over the last decade or so, I've been pretty upset. In different instances. I would say the beginning of 2022 was the most angry I've ever been. There's like 2 to 3 different instances that I'm not going to get into specifically, but like essentially from the day one pay-per-view to getting the match with Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. That process was very frustrating for me. It ended in a good way and we got into a good place, but to getting there was not ideal. And I very much voiced my concerns at that point in time. And
Can
so
you share what was the frustration? Just that it was taking too long, or like what was the, I don't know if you can even go in a roundabout way. Like what made you pissed off?
What I was told leading into the day one pay-per-view changed drastically after day one and every single week following that pay-per-view, all the way up to, I believe, Elimination Chamber at Crown Jewel or whatever the major Saudi show in February was. So there was like a 6-week window where everything I was told was changing from week to week to week. And I was like, because when you're when you're trying to do something creatively, and you have a vision in your head of how you see it, you're trying to piece things together to tell the best story you can. And when that consistently gets changed and the rug keeps getting pulled out from underneath you, or the goalposts keep moving, and then finally the goalposts just get ripped out completely, and now you're looking at the biggest show of the year with possibly nothing on the table, or possibly some bastardized version of what could be good, it leaves you very frustrated with the process. And so I was very frustrated with the process. I think that was the timeline, 2022, I want to say. And then again, Cody Rhodes coming over, us having the story leading into WrestleMania, having the match. So the last month, like March, I was solid, pretty good. But everything leading up to that was a very difficult time for me, creatively speaking.
Yeah. When you're voicing your opinion on that, do you feel like you're heard at least? Like are people like, okay, we'll try to fix it? Or is that part of the frustration that you feel like they're not listening to you?
I mean, everybody's listening. I think, I've gotten to a place where my opinion is valid and people are hearing what I have to say. Now, whether or not that opinion goes into the decision-making process is a different story. I'm not privy to a lot of meetings that happen or other conversations with other talent or other executives backstage. So I'll voice my concerns to who needs to hear them, but whether or not they take that information and utilize it the way I want them to isn't up to me, right? It's not my sandbox. Right. I don't make those rules. So at the end of the day, I have a job to do. I go out, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, but I want to make it the best it can be, not just for me, but for this entire show, for the product, for everything. And so you do your best, but at the end of the day, you have a job to do, and you make the best of it. And that's part of any work environment, really.
Got it. Can I do 2 more questions, or do you got to run? They're lighthearted, fun questions.
Go for it, dog.
Okay. I had you on. It was early in COVID. I had you on. It was before we even did it in Zoom, because I started later doing them on Zoom. And we had talked about, you own a coffee shop, and we talked about the challenges of like owning a business during COVID, especially food business. And I remember you saying you still paid your workers and you were doing your best to keep things going with it. How's the coffee shop doing these days? And I'm just curious, as a business owner, are you still feeling the effects of that insane pandemic? You bounced back nicely. What's going on with the Cody Rhodes coffee shop?
Yes.
Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Cody. I know what.
Shop.
I can't believe I just did that. That's just the worst thing I've ever done on a podcast.
God bless you.
So here's the deal. I once had Roman on and asked him what it was like to be a 43-year-old wrestler when I meant to say 33. So it was just like yeah. So there you go. So that now I have two embarrassing, complete, just pathetic f-ups with wrestlers. But go ahead.
That's great. Well, I'm glad you didn't age me a decade. I'll take a comparison to Cody Rhodes rather than being aged a decade. So,
yeah.
As for the coffee shops, they're wonderful. I think all small businesses are still reeling from the pandemic. It's gonna take some years to get back what was, really taken from a lot of small businesses in that time. But we're fortunate enough that we've got a really great leadership team, and we've got 2 coffee shops, and we're able to make it work the best we can. We still are able to contribute to the community. Everything is cooking and smooth sailing. But like business isn't through the roof. You know what I'm saying? It's not crazy. And I think it's that way for most small businesses right now, as we're also sort of we were pushing recession levels not that long ago. And obviously the economy is really starting to bounce back, which is fantastic. And so hopefully we're looking at next year to be a really nice year for the U.S. economy. And I think small businesses are going to help that. But yeah, we have a fantastic leadership team. We got a good crew of people. We got a lot of folks in the Quad Cities passionate about good coffee. And so everything from a 392, which is the name of the company, coffee shop standpoint is wonderful. And I appreciate you asking.
Now, as a coffee shop owner, 2 coffee shops, small business coffee shop owner, you're on the road a lot. You encounter probably Starbucks every 5 blocks. Do you have to shun Starbucks? Do you walk by and spit on Starbucks and move on because you have your own coffee shop and Starbucks is now charging $8 for a latte?
No, because Starbucks is the reason we have great coffee shops, right? If Starbucks hadn't boomed the popularity of coffee as a everyday, multiple times a day experience, there wouldn't be all these craft coffee shops that popped up that said, "Hey, we can do our own thing," and there wouldn't be a market for it. So you can't snooze on Starbucks. It's like WWE, right? Like we are the biggest wrestling promotion in the world, and a lot of small promotions that start up, you can't knock WWE because most people that know about pro wrestling think it's WWE, and then they hear about a smaller promotion and they go, "Oh, okay, that's like what I see on TV. That's like WWE." And so small businesses in the coffee world are the same thing. People only know the Starbucks experience until you show them something different, but you can't knock the big guys for bringing attention to the broader venue. So, I mean, I'm not going to a Starbucks. I'm not going there. I'll find different great coffee shops in different cities across the world. But I don't.
But there's a respect.
They do.
Yeah,
there's absolutely respect, and we love them. We thank them for bringing coffee to everybody's minds, so that they'll come to our shop and have a good cup.
What's the go-to coffee order for you, on the day-to-day basis? Are you doing cappuccino, latte?
I get an espresso and a cortado. That's my go-to, man.
When I see you in the ring sometimes, and I'm like, when that light's on, you're always at a 10. So I would imagine the espresso helps with that. There's an energy there. You can see the espresso energy coming through the screen.
Yeah, we'll call it that. We'll say that. I mean, some days it takes a little more than others, but yeah, I mean, I have my set. I like coffee as an experience. I don't really even use the caffeine for energy anymore. I just enjoy the taste, the flavor. I like the experience of going to the coffee shop and seeing what they got and different beans and different drinks and all that good stuff. So, I wish the caffeine hit me like it used to, but hate to say it, I need a little more to get me going.
Got it. Last question. And this is why I called you Cody Rhodes. I'm going to try to save my ass here. This is why I called you Cody by accident. When I had Cody on last week, we talked about the greatest manager of all time in pro wrestling, because he had brought up Heyman, and I told a quick story about I had written something about Bobby Heenan being the greatest manager of all time in pro wrestling history. And Heyman came on this podcast, and like I said, he ripped me a new asshole for about 10 minutes about saying that. And then, so I brought that up to Cody, and Cody said Heenan's the greatest manager. And then Heyman sent out a tweet this week saying, I've been trying to bait him and all this stuff. So you are the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. You're going to be at SummerSlam against Finn Balor on Peacock. You're one of the most popular wrestlers we've seen in recent times. So your opinion matters. Who is the greatest manager in pro wrestling history? according to Seth Rollins.
Man, this is you're trying to get a headline out of me is what you're trying to do right now.
Maybe and just a tweet.
I'm gonna dodge it. Because I think Heenan and Heyman are kind of 1A and 1B because they do different things, right? Heenan was a different type of manager. He managed a group, right? The Heenan family. The way he cut promos and the way he built up his stories was different. Paul is more like an agent, right? He is, a wise man as he is now, but he usually represents one person. He is phenomenal at promoting one top act type guy. And you look at his track record when he sort of branched out a little bit with some other guys like Curtis Axel and Cesaro, wasn't quite as successful. Whereas Heenan, when he would work with larger numbers of people, he was fantastic across the board. He worked with Andre a lot, but he didn't Andre was already a god, right? Heenan didn't elevate Andre to the point that like what Heyman did for Brock, right? And what Heyman has done for Roman. And so they're both special in their own ways. It's so hard for me to pick one or the other. Heyman could do what Heenan does, and I don't think Heenan could do what Heyman does. So they're two unique personalities. I throw a Jim Cornette in there as a close number 2 underneath them, but Heenan and Heyman are they're as good as it gets, but they do bring different skill sets to the table.
All right, Heyman may like that answer, so we'll see what he says on Twitter.
I'm sure he'll have something to say about it.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate the time, really. This was a lot of fun. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor at SummerSlam this Saturday on Peacock. And almost as important, maybe, I don't want to say more important, and we got the Bear season coming up in about 5 weeks. So we got to see how Justin Fields does this year. Seth will be locked in every Sunday, I'm sure. So thanks a lot.
Every Sunday, and you will, if you don't know how they're doing, you can just check my Twitter. I'll be letting you know, man. I hope it's more I loves than I hates this season.
I always look forward to that. So if the Bears if they're doing well, we'll get you back on. We'll just do like even a 5-minute football segment here with you if the Bears get off to a good start. Let's rock, man. Let's do it. All right. Enjoy it. SummerSlam this Saturday on Peacock. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor. Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. Cheers. All right, my thanks to Seth Rollins. And like I said, if you're a WWE fan, we had Cody Rhodes on last week, so check that out in the archives. Leave a review on Apple, subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll have another pod, SI Media Pod, later this week with Chris Mad Dog Russo out on Thursday and Salicata and Traina Thoughts. All right, that wraps up for this edition of SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll see you later this week. Take care and stay safe.